Is going on, everybody? What is going on? The catch fam. Hope you guys are doing fantastic tonight. Hope everyone has had a great start to the weekend. Hope your guys' Saturdays are going phenomenal. Hope you guys are ready for another live 2025 fantasy football draft here at the catch. Hopping into some 2025 fantasy football drafts on Underdog Fantasy, as has been our Saturday night tradition as of late. So super stoked to be here tonight. I mean, we've had a lot of like NFL news, fantasy news over the last couple days. So, a lot to kind of work through in terms of seeing like shifts in ADP. So I'm excited. Should be a fun stream tonight. Should be fun to see some players moving up and down on the board potentially. And as always, we're going to have some fun and we're going to talk some fantasy football no matter what these circumstances are. So I'll wait a couple minutes here, or a couple moments, I should say, and we'll hop into some drafts. We got the puppy open, so I'm thinking we'll warm up with the puppy. Gonna see. I don't think, does this have a set number of entries, like a limit? Doesn't look like it. So everybody should be good to go. But yeah, little $5 tourney here, 20 seconds per pick. I mean, this is what the people want, right? So I'm gonna enter the lobby at 10:55 p.m. Eastern time. That's in about 2 minutes. And we'll start with this draft. I will run a second draft, and if I'm not falling asleep, then potentially a third draft as well. But we will for sure get through 2 drafts tonight. So do a warm up on the puppy, and we will go from there. So don't worry if you guys don't get in on the first draft. There will be a second one, and we'll see what happens in terms of after that. But yeah, hope you guys are doing great. Hop in the live chat. Let me know what's going on, guys. July is quickly going by. We're gonna be like seeing training camp news in just another week or so. Some teams less than a week, and August is going to be here before we know it. So it is time. I would say mid-July is when things really start popping off. I mean, August is probably when things start really popping off fantasy wise, but like we are right here where most people who are sharp drafters, if they weren't already invested, they are invested now. So make sure you guys are getting your P's and Q's in order. Is that the term? P's and Q's? Make sure you guys are getting ready. It's going to be a great season. Like I always say every year, I can feel it. It's going to be a great season. So once again, hopping into the lobby here in 1 minute at 10:55 p.m. Eastern time. The puppy 2. 20 seconds per pick. 3, 2, 1. We're in, boys and girls. 2 spots open. Make sure you guys get in. 1 spot open. Hopefully that was you guys. I'm sure these are filling relatively fast right now. But nonetheless, we'll see who's in here. Katz is in the house. And J Dubs. At least got 2 of you guys. If you guys are in here, I don't recognize your username, let me know. And don't worry, like I said, I'll be hopping into another draft after this as well. So I'm excited. I feel pretty comfortable right now in terms of ADP, drafting, all that stuff. Like I said, there are a couple kind of shifts in ADP, some fantasy news, NFL news over the past couple of days. Guys like Rashee Rice, Jordan Addison, Brandon Ayuk, Ricky Pearsall, Jawan Jennings, the entire Niners wide receiver room, maybe the Chargers wide receivers, since Mike Williams has, announced his retirement from the NFL. I think Omarion Hampton's going to continue to move up in ADP, which this is a topic I want to talk about, especially because Katz is in the building tonight. We were talking about this Tuesday night in the subscriber mock draft for redraft purposes, right? And I got to say, I think I was completely wrong on this topic, all things considered. I think I am in on the Hampton hype 110%. I mean, it's not that I was out before, but my thesis was that Najee Harris, would be continuing, or I guess I shouldn't say continuing, but should be getting some sort of role within that offense. It's been my thesis all off season long that this is a heavy run first offense, and that I just don't think Omari Hampton's going to come right out of the gate getting all of the volume, but down the stretch, I think he'll be the more valuable running back, but that Najee would still have a role, right? And I mean, I've been saying that since early in the offseason, since Hampton got drafted to the Chargers. I didn't even really like the landing spot because Najee was there, right? And then fast forward to like at least last week, right? My thesis was that it doesn't look like the Najee Harris eye injury 4th of July thing is going to be a huge deal, and that we should probably still anticipate him being out there week 1. And now, like literally, like the very next day after Tuesday's live stream, we got the report that Najee Harris is starting on the NFI, not or and what is the list called? Not physically active, whatever it is, a non-football injury list. So it is NFI. Sorry, I was like, wait, I know it is NFI. So that actually concerns me quite a bit here. It does seem like the initial reports on the Najee Harris situation were like really serious. Like there were reports floating around that he like lost an eyeball, and then it went to like, no, it's not that serious. Like he's gonna be ready to go. And then was like he's not gonna be ready for training camp, and now he's like on the NFI list, right? And like now it just feels like a really murky situation, and like we don't really have any true update on how serious or not serious it actually is. So that does concern me for a number of different reasons. So I still want to say that if Najee Harris is ready to go, and like when he is getting, is active with the team, I do think he will still have a role easily in this offense. Sorry, this is a tough pick for me. I'm going to go AJ Brown. I want to start double receiver. I actually was hoping for Drake London. I knew B Tom wouldn't be there. I don't know. Derrick Henry, Devon Achane, Lad McConkey, AJ Brown, London, like that whole tier is so tough for me. But yeah, the situation with Najee's just sketchy, and I'm starting to not feel as good about it. And I still think down the stretch, Hampton will be the running back to own who has more upside. But I also want to be careful of like falling against my original thesis here and falling into, for lack of a better term, a trap. And like, what if Najee is ready week 1? And like, we're a little bit too enthralled in the offseason talk, I don't want to see Omari Hampton's ADP go too crazy here. Right now on Underdog, for example, he's sitting at 39.8. I would anticipate on Sleeper and on Underdog, like slowly, as long as we're not seeing Najee practice or at training camp, like slowly that ADP is going to go up. But right now, you look in the kind of area Hampton's going: Breece Hall, Kyron Williams, Hampton, Cook, Chuba, Walker, Kamara. Like it's that's pretty stiff competition, whether he were to rise or to drop, right? So I don't know. I'm not putting him above Kyron or Breece, Chase Brown. I can tell you guys that much. And quite frankly, I probably still have James Cook in front of Hampton. And I'm really high on Walker, and I still really like Kamara. I'm okay with him over Chuba. But yeah, it's a tough spot at running back. I don't want to see his ADP move up too much overall. So yeah, I just wanted to bring that up because we talked a lot about it Tuesday night, I felt like. And then like we got negative news as soon as the stream was over, essentially. And I was like, you know what? Kind of wish I had a different stance on the stream last night. But I do think if Najee's ready to go week 1, I still kind of worry about Hampton's initial volume. So it's tough there. We'll see what happens. But yeah, the situation, this could be one of those situations where like, Najee misses training camp or a good portion of training camp and then just doesn't get out of the gate exactly how he should, and then just falls behind too much. But it's weird because like it's not like a knee injury or ankle injury, like an injury that's going to impact him in terms of how he runs a football. It's a non-football injury, So it's weird, but I think if he were to fall behind the gate, theoretically, right, that that would, for a number of reasons, not be good. Sorry, trying to make my selection as we see Rashee Rice moving back a bit here. I'm still really on JSN at this ADP. I think I'm just going to go JSN. Start 3 wide receiver set here. No overlapping bye weeks. So yeah, I haven't done a draft or mock draft since the Rashee Rice news / Jordan Addison news. So let me know where you guys are kind of seeing those players fall to, and I'll keep an eye on tonight's draft as well. But yeah, we'll see what happens with Najee. And let me run through the chat real quick here, and we'll keep going through some of these topics. I just want to pop in and drop a like, say what's up. What's going on, Taylor? Got work early tomorrow. Happy drafting. Appreciate it, homie. Good to see you, Taylor. Hope work goes smoothly. LeBron's, what's up, bro, Chacho? So overall, I haven't set any draft dates for any of the leagues. I want all the leagues to be paid up before we set a draft date, and I'm trying to have a hard stance on that at the moment. So yeah, all the information I did put out all the information for our community's upcoming fantasy drafts on Discord. So make sure you guys are on Discord if you do want to, play in the fantasy leagues this year. Sorry, let me make this pick. Picks are coming quick tonight. See, I think I'm still going James Cook over Hampton. But yeah, I mean, we'll do all the drafts in August. I'm just how it's going to work is there's going to be a League Safe link. Everyone's going to pay up on League Safe. Once the league is completely paid for, then the draft date will be announced on Sleeper. You will not get the Sleeper invite until you pay on League Safe. So once everyone's paid, once everyone's in on Sleeper, I'll set a draft date. But all the drafts will be in August. They're always throughout August. Be kind of random throughout August, but you guys will be able to make it to them. I promise. So everything's on Discord. And guys, the best way to communicate with me, whether it's the off season or the regular season, is through Discord DMs. So make sure that you guys are on the Discord and all that good stuff. And in other words, don't message me on Sleeper because I might not see it. I will more likely see a Discord message than a Sleeper message. And for that kind of stuff, don't leave me a YouTube comment. So I don't always get back to YouTube comments right away. But for anyone who's not part of the Discord, it should be in the description, but there's a link for it as well. The Discord's free. There's nothing whatsoever on the Discord that is not free, nor has there ever been. So we'd love to have you, LeBron's. And all the leagues are $20 buy-ins. It's not like, these aren't like $50, $100, $300 leagues. It's just a $20 buy-in every year. So, nothing crazy there. But yeah, we're starting to get those going, and I'm excited. All right, we got J-Dubs in here. W for sure. All right, random post, Malik or Nico. It's very close. We're splitting hairs here, but I will go Malik Neighbors. I'm of that crowd that I put Malik Neighbors. I did my top 50 wide receiver rankings, and my top 50 running back rankings went out earlier this week. And I have Neighbors in the top tier with Chase, JJ, and CeeDee Lamb. I think Puka Nacua is probably next in overall rankings for me, and Puka theoretically could be in that tier as well. And then it gets really, really I think, this next tier is still so good. I think Amon-Ra St. Brown has to be next, and then it's Nico, then it's Brian Thomas Jr. I would say those are my top 8 receivers in order. Then probably Drake London, AJ Brown. I think you could swap AJ Brown, Drake London, Lad McConkey, JSN on the outside looking in. And you could also you could swap those 4 guys however you feel. I think most people would have some order of Lad, Lundo, Brown first. You may even have JSN a little bit further back. And to wrap up that tier, initially I had T. Higgins, Garrett Wilson, Rashee Rice. Rice is going to drop, but I don't think Rice drops that much. I think just into the next tier. We don't really have a real idea of what this suspension is going to look like, but I don't think it's going to be too bad. Then my next tier would be Mike Evans, Scary Terry, Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill, Cortland Sutton, Marvin Harrison Jr., Devonta Smith. So, yeah, I have Neighbors pretty high, but I know I'm not the only person who feels that way. All right, give me Kamara all day long right here. I love that. Love that. Love this start. Situation is so sketchy, says Katz. If it wasn't that bad, surely Najee or the Chargers would have shown a picture. Yeah, that's like one thing that is kind of concerning me too. I'm like, how do we know Najee Harris is like even alive at this point? Like, I haven't seen much of anything. I feel like Jordan Addison and Chris Godwin are going to be two of my most drafted wide receivers. And I constantly find myself around this position in drafts as either Godwin or Addison. So I guess we should talk about Jordan Addison. But I've already been talking about Jordan Addison so much this offseason. I think you guys know how I feel. I've never been worried about the suspension. He missed 2 games last year. He basically didn't play week 18, which those stats, a lot of times when you're looking at, prior year stats, it will include week 18, of course, even though we're only really concerned about weeks 1 through 17. So essentially, he missed 3 games last year. The big question with Addison is like he had the offseason issue with the speeding ticket the year prior, then the DUI. So, like, it's kind of tough to say what he's going to be slapped with here. But, yeah, for me, this was positive news for Jordan Addison. Much worse news for Rashee Rice, just looking at everything initially. But let me know how you guys feel about both situations. Rashee Rice gone tonight at pick 48. Xavier Worthy gone at pick 38, 10 picks before Rice. So, yeah, I guess that's another player that we're going to be looking out for is like where and when does Worthy move up? How far back does Rice move? I mean, I don't know. I think Rice in the end of the fourth is still pretty appropriate. I mean, look at this team starting with Chase Hill. I don't love Hill there, but I can understand why he's the selection. Rice, Devonta Smith, like that's a pretty solid start at receiver. So not a big fan of Mike Evans this year. I mean, to be fair, like there's a group of people every year who's not a fan of Mike Evans. I still think he's just perfectly fine. He's going to be a solid wide receiver 1. I mean, I would prefer to draft him as a wide receiver 2. But, like he's going to be a solid wide receiver 1 for the Bucs, solid wide receiver 2 for fantasy purposes. And I think it'll be, the fact that we have Chris Godwin coming back healthy, some combination of Mika Bukba and Jalen McMillan on the field, those splashes of Cade Otton, 2 good running backs in Bucky and Rachaad White. Like I think all these things are good for Mike Evans. Should open up things in terms of what we can anticipate for red zone looks and hopefully more touchdown volume to Evans. But yeah, I think Evans will be fine. I can understand if you're like a little bit lower on him because the age, but like truthfully, it's not really concerning me. At some point, the wheels do have to fall off, I suppose. I guess go Brian Robinson here. I was hoping I was going to maybe land Pollard there. I would have been really happy with that. It's a tough little range, I feel like, here. Aaron Jones or Brian Robinson was a tough choice. Some interesting wide receivers here. Definitely keep an eye on Trey Harris right now. All right, I want to go with the little Buccaneer stack. So I'm going to go Baker and Godwin here. A little early for me in terms of where I generally take a quarterback, but I need to start Go a little bit higher on QB tight end, I feel. Andrea, good to see you. Hello. How are you doing? Yeah, also since we streamed last, no news on Quentin Junkins in that situation, although he remains unsigned. This is the furthest I've seen Rice fall. Has still gone in the third in every other draft. Yeah, I think more and more people are starting to get more concerned about the situation. But like we know he's going to face a suspension, 5 years of probation, 30 days of jail time. We don't know when he's going to serve the jail time, but I would assume there's going to be a way for him to work around the NFL season, knowing how these things generally go. But he will face a suspension either way. I've heard everything from 2 games to 6 games. So, plus I don't know if this is true, but I think like he can just serve the 30 days any time during the next 5 years. I don't know exactly how it works. I won't lie to you guys. So, yeah. Let me know what you guys think, what you guys have read, what you guys have seen. But yeah. I still think an ADP of 4.12 is, I'm not saying that's his ADP, that's where he went in this draft. I'd still have a hard time passing on him there. I mean, I even consider going Nico Brown, JSN, and Rice. If you're feeling pretty good about your wide receivers 1 and 2, or if you have 3 solid wide receivers to start, like I don't know. Like I still think it's very tempting to go Rashee Rice. Especially like this is the time to take those chances, because what if he does end up only getting suspended for 2 or 3 games? If we know a player's like think of it this way: if you knew Justin Jefferson was going to miss 3 games for sure due to injury, like where would you take Justin Jefferson? Like it wouldn't be that much further back. So it's a very drastic comparison, but like however you felt about Rashee Rice, now just imagine like you have to start thinking like if you knew he was going to miss 3 games due to injury, 4 games due to injury, 6 games due to injury, where would you draft him? You know, it's like your overall feelings about the player don't really change. It's just the situation now. Andrea guessing 3 games. Cat's saying pretty much guaranteed 4 to 6. That's what I had read, around that range. I don't know what I want to do with this pick. I'm just going to go early quarterback tonight. Dang it, I wanted Evan Ingram, though. I knew that was a bad, risky decision. Sometimes you got to risk it for the biscuit. I was thinking, go Evan Ingram here, get tight end out of the way, take a dart throw at a late round Broncos wide receiver, which I'm still going to have to do. But honestly, like I feel fine with Baker Mayfield and Bo Nix at quarterback going into next year. Nobody else. Really in any type of format. All right, I will go J.K. Dobbins here, so at least get a little bit of whatever the word is, exposure to that offense. And I don't think I'll land Marvin Mims, although people might pass on him because they don't feel the need to draft him. When do I draft again? Yeah, I mean, I'm going to take a tight end. I was going into those 2 selections pretty much thinking I was going to go tight end 100%. But he's going to go for 776 and a tutty and check in. Yeah, I mean, he might. He might. All right, Dead-Eyed Boy, what's going on? Got a question. Really stuck on this. 12-man happy PR league. Have the 3rd pick. Stuck to go with Bijan or JJ for my first pick. I will go Bijan 100% in half PPR. I'm going to take the running back. And I mean, Bijan is my RB1 going into the season overall, regardless of format. I mean, JJ's perfectly fine here. Like, I mean, when it comes to half PPR, you're searching for that touchdown upside at the receiver position, and JJ is going to give you everything that you need, um, uh, regardless of scoring format. But yeah, I go Bijan. I wouldn't overthink it. I just take the running back here. They're going to have more volume, or excuse me, more value in a half PPR format. So I would feel pretty good about it, and if you were to go JJ, it's completely fine. But yeah, I would say in half PPR, the value lies at the running back position always. So don't freak out too much about it. It is a tough pick. And I guess you're assuming what, Jamar Chase, Saquon are gone, which is fine. There's a chance come August time, though. I mean, there are some people out on Saquon. So you might see Bijan gone, but could go Gibbs if you want to stick with that same theory, or you could just go Saquon at that point. But I would feel very good, regardless of format, at the 1-3 going Bijan, but in half PPR especially, I'd feel very good. So yeah, that would be my answer for you. Think it's amplified more with Rice coming off an injury. Yeah, I think people are really forgetting about this. His sample of being elite is so small, it's hard to project confidently. Yeah, I don't disagree with this. I think that part of the initial concern or murkiness around Rice was definitely due to the fact that he was coming off an injury, and then I feel like that completely started to go away for a couple weeks, and then it basically just came right back around. Well, it didn't come back around, but the the stuff with the looming suspension came back around. So now it's I feel like Rashee Rice's ADP has been very, very, very up and down throughout this offseason. But yeah, I think that's a good point for sure. The sample being elite is so small, it's hard to project. Yeah. And once again, we will have Xavier Worthy there, right? We will have Hollywood Brown back, presumably. And I don't know if there's much difference outside of those two things happening. But I guess I'll go Kincaid. Get my tight end out of the way. I like this team tonight a lot, actually. But I also am high on Marvin Mims, so I need to start looking ahead. 154, 159. But yeah, it's a murky situation. And another murky situation I feel like right now is the 49ers wide receiver room. Because now we've got, Kyle Shanahan, of course, lying about, the status and health of Ricky Pearsall, who's tweaked his hamstring and is now not going to start training camp healthy. You've got Jawan Jennings holding out, which I've heard rumors that the Niners, the expectation is that they're going to get a deal done, but who knows? And we know Brandon Ayuk's already going to miss the beginning of the season. So that's a tough. I just don't see Jennings ending up on another team personally. I don't. But let me know if you guys feel differently. But I feel like as of right now, I'm probably targeting Jawan Jennings almost aggressively, which, if I'm not mistaken, yeah, J-Dubs took him at the 6-1 and gets the Purdy stack. That's a great stack in best ball right now, for sure. For sure. I just think I would be. I don't really feel confident drafting anyone but Jennings, but then I think some people could have, the thesis that they would be staying away from Jennings due to the potential holdout as well. It's a tough situation. Sorry, I had to grab my phone. But yeah, I don't know. Let me know how you guys feel about the Niners situation as well. I was kind of praying Rashad White might fall there. I did not think he was going to. But one can hope. All right. I don't know where I want to go with these next two picks. We also had some like maybe fake, maybe not fake news on Jadon Blue and the Cowboys. Like Cowboys not liking Jadon Blue, thinking he was like skipping meetings, being lazy. I don't know. Then I heard it was completely not true. All right, tough pick here, but I think I'm going to go Hunter Henry. It's an interesting draft tonight. But I kind of like it. All right, so oops. Don't know what I just did. All right. Got Baker stacked with Godwin. I was really hoping to get Rashad White. I don't know why. I didn't think that was going to actually happen, but that would have been cool. But Baker's with Godwin. We got Bo Nix stacked with Dobbins to a degree, but also Marvin Mims fell, which I like. So QBs, I'm good with just those two quarterbacks, and they're both stacked. James Cook, Kamara, Brian Robinson, Dobbins. We got to take one more dart throw at receiver and just hope that these running backs get us through, and I think they can personally. Nico, AJ Brown, JSN, Godwin, Marvin Mims, Romeo Dobbs at receiver. I'll take it. I'll take it. Then Kincaid and Hunter Henry at tight end. I like this draft a lot, actually. Got to get some running back depth. We got a lot relying on those two tight ends. Probably still need some receiver depth here. So 4 more picks. See what happens. All right. Into the 15th round we go. Pearsall ended offseason program injured, so he automatically has to be on PUP. I'm hearing once he reports training camp, will be taken off. Cat's always with the prime information. I mean, I have like some ways I go about my keeping up with everything, and I feel like my info gathering is pretty good, but I feel like Cats is always ahead of me. Maybe I just jump to conclusions too quickly. All right. Bryce, what's going on, man? When are you going to start accepting buy-ins for the fantasy leagues? I need you guys to message me on Discord so I can get you added. Do the lists. Wow, I was not ready for this pick. I'll just go Kate Otten. We'll go with one additional tight end. I did not want Pat Bryant on this team too. I almost took him. That'd be a little overkill. But yeah, Bryce, I'm getting names together on Discord, and then once I have your name on the list, I'll send you the invite to League Safe. You guys can pay for your respective league. Once you have paid, then I will send you the invite to Sleeper. Gonna do it that way because I covered too many people last year. I'll go D Hop here. I still feel pretty good, even though I just drafted DeAndre Hopkins. See how this wraps up. How you guys feeling about your teams? I'll take a look at everyone's teams at the end as well. Sorry, I got to send a text to Chris. If you're hearing this, Chris, I'm trying to text you while I talk. I do have to text you while I stream. All right, a couple more picks here, guys. Not like these picks are super exciting, anyways. This is an important text. I am kind of like intrigued by Darren Waller in these rounds. I can't lie. I don't think I'll ever draft Chicken Conquo again. I had way too much Chicken Conquo shares last year. For no reason. Although I guess with Cam Ward there, he could definitely be better than last year. All right, we are back on the clock. Man, there's a couple of players I actually like right here, but I'm going to go Justice Hill. This is like my late round running back that I like to take. So I'm going with them. And then, I'm going to go Keenan Allen with this last pick. I wasn't sure if he would last. I actually like this team. Yeah, I will say, Cats, I did have this little sneaky suspicion that Keenan Allen back to the Chargers makes a lot of sense. I also did not see this chat before I drafted Keenan Allen, which you didn't draft Herbert anyway, so I don't feel bad. But I think that makes a lot of sense as well. Still like a contending team for sure. And it makes, if they were willing to bring Mike Williams back, I don't think there's any way like that they would not consider bringing Keenan Allen back. It was productive last year. So, um, yeah, I agree with that. But yeah, I like Keenan Allen in this range. All right, let's take a look at some teams. I want to let this go down. It always does this. It doesn't actually show the final pick. All right, which I actually kind of like because then it used to take you like right off the draft screen, but I also like to see who goes last. You know what I mean? All right, let's take a look at Cats teams. I will be hopping into another draft here after we take a look at everyone's teams. Anthony Richardson. Whew. Dak, Tila, A-Rich. I feel like this is the most Cats QB room I've ever seen in my life. JT, Chase Brown, ETN, Taji, Eckler. Pretty good running back room, all things considered. Lamb, Pickens, Hunter, Pearsall, Debo. I know you like that Debo pick. Jack Besk, Slayton, Fergie, Strange, Jawan, Jennings. So Dak with CD and Pickens, the double stack, and Fergie. Dude, you should have drafted Javonte Williams. You should have gone all in here. I'm a little disappointed. I'm not like in tune enough with correlation if like some of these teams are playing each other, like, weeks 15, 16, 17, whatever. So if you guys have any of that going on, let me know. But T-Law with Hunter and ETN and Strange. Okay. A-Rich with JT. No Colts receiver. I think he'll survive. Yeah, I mean, I think that there's definitely a thought process here, so I got nothing bad to say. I mean, T-Law and A-Rich. Brings me back to last year, man. All right, J-Dubs, what we got going on over here? We got Purdy with Jennings and Kittle. Man, I think Kittle's really going to I think he's going to solidify himself a bit higher in drafts and mock drafts right now. The longer we have like murkiness around that Niners receiver room. This was a point I meant to make while we were kind of talking about this earlier, but with how productive Kittle already was last year, and I mean for the past couple of years for that matter, but how like aggressively targeted he was. I think a lot of people are going to look at, the shakiness of the Niners wide receiver rooms as things stand here middle of July. And I think Kittle is going to really he's already basically the tight end 3 for sure. But I think that's not going to change now. You know what I mean? All right, we got J-Lo with Marshawn Lloyd. Marshawn Lloyd still getting drafted in the big 2025. I'm just kidding. Lloyd is perfectly fine. He probably is the RB2 behind Jacob, so good handcuff. Tyler Shuck with Shaheed. Fair enough. I mean, I always talk about this every offseason. You should be looking for some cheap late round stack. Just don't overly aggressively draft it. Like I did 2 or 3 years ago with Mac Jones, Hunter Henry, and Kendrick Bourne. Ended up working on 0 of my teams. Brees Hall, Connor, Jones, Javonte, Shipley, Lloyd. This is a good running back room. Amon-Ra, B. Tom Jennings, Mooney, Shaheed, Palmer, Thielen. Very good value at receiver throughout the draft. Kittle, Pitts. Fair enough. Plus, I know the way you draft. There's always a thought process here, so I got nothing bad to say. Grab Debo for Dallas. Bring back Indy and Jax week 17. Yeah, you got to imagine too. Week 17, like Indy and Jacksonville are playing each other. There's playoff implications potentially, but if not, like you could see a game like the Panthers Falcons this past year, or was that week 18? Maybe it was week 18. So a loose example, but where just like the game is completely meaningless, but it's a divisional game. Could see points. Plus, like if Anthony Richardson theoretically is a starter there, he's maybe fighting for his career at that point, right? Truly fighting for it. All right, here's what I threw together. Baker stacked with Godwin and Otton. Knicks stacked with, I guess, Dobbins to a degree, but also Marvin Mims. Missed Ingram on the turnaround. James Cook, Alvin Kamara, Brian Robinson, Dobbins, Justice Hill, Nico Collins, AJ Brown, JSN, Godwin, Mims, Dobbs, Hopkins, Keenan Allen, Kincaid, Henry, Cade Otton. There's your team. Actually, this is like one of the teams that I like a bit more overall than some of the teams we drafted lately. All right, I'm going to enter the lobby again at 11:40 p.m. Eastern Time. Puppy, 20 seconds per pick. 2 minutes. Everyone reset, grab your water, use the restroom, whatever you need to do. And let's hop back in exactly 2 minutes. I will count down 3, 2, 1 at 11:40 p.m. Eastern Time. Then we'll get ready for another draft. So let's do it. It's just $5, unlimited entries. I was initially planning on doing Best Ball Mania tonight, but when there's a cheap tournament like this, especially right now when we have like some ADPs kind of shifting and like a lot of news to respond to, I kind of prefer the cheaper lobbies. But I am excited. Next month I'll probably only hop into Best Ball Mania, but then I don't know. Start throwing a lot of different drafts at us. Sometimes it's fun to get in some of the other drafts too. All right, 1 minute, 11:40 p.m. Eastern Time. Then I'll count down 3, 2, 1, and we can hop in. I also need to get more weekly winner entries done because I like weekly winners, right? I just never I don't want to stream weekly winners that much because not everyone is interested in it. It's not true enough ADP to help you guys who are interested in redraft but don't do best ball tournaments. You know what I mean? So I never get around to it. But I really love weekly winners. You guys know that. It's my favorite tournament. So I need to get some of those in because that usually closes mid-August is usually when it's filled. All right, less than 1 minute, guys. 11:40, and I will count down. I'm staring at the clock. Let's try and get as many of us in here. 3, 2, 1, go. All right, we got 6 spots, 5 spots, 4 spots. Get on in there. 20 seconds per pick. The puppy, 2. All right, 4 spots available. So if you guys want to get in, you should be able to. Perfecto. As long as you guys have a chance to get in. I hate when I join a draft, we've all waited, counted down, whatever, and then it's the draft is starting. I'm like, oh no, I don't know if anybody got in here. So let's do it. Lobby's filled. All right. Let me get set up here. Cats is in here. Chris is in here. Chris from Fantasy Endgame. Shout out to Chris. Cats, shout out to you for joining the second draft. If you guys are in here and I don't recognize your username, let me know. And let's do it, boys and girls. Let's have some fun. Shadow is wicked. Have a tough choice. 1-man keeper league. Keep Kyron to lose an 8th or keep Bowers to lose a 10th. Tight end slot is tight end / wide receiver. That is a tough choice. I think you could look at this one of two ways. Like, I am kind of personally pretty high on Kyron Williams, so part of me gravitates towards just losing the eighth, and like, however you want to look at it, like, if you go in with forfeiting an eighth round selection and having Kyron, like, you really only need to draft one running back between the first and seventh round. Then you're gonna have like a double hero. Or I mean, I don't know, maybe you want to get one more in there, but still, like, you're in a really you have a very good advantage. And I would imagine that in most leagues, most keeper leagues, and so probably your keeper league, that there's going to be less running backs available because more people are keen to keeping a running back or receiver, generally speaking. So you're going to see the ADP of running backs shifted a little bit, so to speak. With that being said, I also really like the idea of just not needing to draft a tight end whatsoever. At the same time, like, I think you can get a pretty good tight end in the 10th round, regardless. Like, you're not going to get Brock Bowers, obviously, but I am personally expecting some sort of regression from Brock Bowers this coming season. I don't know if it will be as drastic, but similar to what we saw out of Laporta, going from his rookie season to his sophomore season. So, um, I if you look right now in like a redraft in the keeper league, your ADP is going to be different overall across the board, but like, ninth round through 10th round, Evan Ingram, David Njoku, Johnny Smith, Tyler Warren, Tucker Kraft, Colson Loveland, Jake Ferguson. I think you could still land a top 5 tight end out of those names. Evan Ingram, David Njoku, the names I like more. I do think a number of these guys can easily finish in the top 8, top 10, although the points scored from the tight end 5 to 10 is very different than the running back 5 to 10, and very drastic from the tight end 1 to tight end 5. So, stark comparison, right? It's not as valuable to say, I'll go Lad here. I went AJ Brown last draft, so I'm gonna go Lad. Yeah, you think about it this way. It's also important when you're making these decisions to keep in mind what players are going to be gone. Um, which some keeper leagues, like, you got to choose your player, and like, you don't always know all the other players are going to be kept. But it can make a difference. Like, if there's 8 teams keeping a running back, you might just want to take Kyron because then you at least have, value there. But it's close. I don't mind. Like, if you want to go into your league, your year, and like, tight ends out of the way, I still think Brock Bowers is my tight end 1 on paper, right? But I just don't worry about the tight end position too much. Plus, I mean, you're saying you play a decent wide receiver in that slot, so I mean, that kind of changes things. If you don't have to play a tight end at all, you know, I don't know that I really worry about that. I mean, I would play a wide receiver there all year long, generally speaking. But then again, like, you have the positional advantage of having Bowers. I still think Bowers is like locked in as a top 5 tight end this year at worst. So it is a tough choice. But I mean, you could literally go double hero running back as a strategy, load up at receiver, get a late round tight end, or even you could still get an early round tight end if you really wanted to. How early you want to go would be up to you. And Kyron would still be your RB2, which I'm okay with. Some people out on Kyron. I really, really like Kyron right now. So I would be okay with like doing that sort of method, so to speak. But it's a tough decision for sure. and you're picking at the, I don't know if you even know your draft selection yet. All right, let me focus for a second. I think I'm going to switch it up slightly from last draft. I'm going to go running back here, but tough choice. I like Terry there. Starting to take 3 QB for the simple fact that I'll be using that 3 QB points more often than that 18th round wide receiver. Fair enough. Yeah, and I think traditionally in most best ball drafts, I am of the belief that 3 QB, what does it shape out to? Not have to do math. Like 3 QB, 3 tight end. Then whatever's left over, like is it 6? So 6 running backs, 6 wide receivers, or you could go 5 running backs, 7 wide receivers, right? Is that 3, 10? Yeah. That's right. So I think traditionally when I first started doing a lot of underdog drafts, I would go 3 quarterback, 3 tight end, 5 running back, 7 receivers. And I always liked those type of builds. But yeah, I mean, that's probably a fair point. That dart throw at wide receiver in the late round is very, your likelihood of hitting on that receiver's low. You're welcome, Shadows. Yeah, I think I lean Kyron, but I'm also really high on Kyron personally. So, but yeah, I would kind of gravitate towards the fact that probably more teams are going to be keeping running backs and wide receivers than other positions. All right, so I think I want to do here is start 2 wide receivers, 2 running backs. Although I think there are a lot of wide receivers right here that I really like. I still have a tough time passing on James Cook here. But I'm going to go Kenneth Walker. I'm going to switch it up just slightly. Trying to think about exposure. It's a little bit of a reach for Walker. I mean, what was my next pick? Maybe he falls to pick 56. But I just took Cook in the last draft. I'm just trying to switch up exposure. I don't have enough entries. I don't really care. But generally, for anyone who cares, I have Cook above Walker. All right, so we got Cats at the 1-5, Chris at the 1-7, me at the 1-8. Me and Chris back to back here. Cat's not far behind. Cat's starting with 3 running backs. We'll see what he does in the 4th round here. Chris starting with 4 receivers, which was I was really close to starting 4 wide receivers. Going Terry, and then I was thinking about going Rashee Rice at 41, but then I don't know if he would have been there. I just took JSN in the last draft, but yeah, if JSN was there at 32, I probably would have started with 3 wide receivers. Tet goes before Terry in this draft, but I like Terry over Tet. But yeah, this is a pretty even peel approach here. 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers to start. And Cats goes with Jalen Hurts in the 4th. Definitely didn't draft Kittle aggressively enough early on. Yeah, and I do once again believe that, like, once again, he is the tight end. I don't know that I've seen a draft where he hasn't gone as a tight end 3, like, at all this offseason. And he was a tight end 1 in half PPR last year, the tight end 3 in full PPR. He's been in the tight end 5 or better 4 years in a row. He's been the tight end 5 or better every year since 2018, excluding 2020, where he only played in 8 games. So there's like no reason for him not to be here. But yeah, I think with everything going on with that wide receiver room, he's baked in at that ADP for sure. Also, yeah, I mean, we saw Cats in the last draft with Anthony Richardson. Anthony Richardson expected to be a full send, ready to go for training camp. Does that change anyone's opinion about anything? Cats, that was a great turnaround for you getting Devonta Smith at the 5-3 right there. All right, I am not paying attention whatsoever, or at least I wasn't here. I'll go Cortland Sutton. It's my wide receiver 3. I'm okay with that. Lots of Broncos exposure over here. Going Kyron for now. No confirmation on selection yet. I don't know. Some keeper leagues. It's like once you choose your keeper, that's it. Like you can't go back. Some will let you change, but I do feel like until you know what other people are keeping, like you should be able to change. You're welcome. That's what we're here for. Oh, I feel like you always draft Hurts though, so that didn't surprise me. Am I wrong? But Hurts with Devonta there is nice. It's a pretty solid start. All right, I'm gonna go back-to-back wide receivers here. I think no matter what, there's gonna be someone on the board I like here. So Chris going very heavy at receiver. I haven't done a draft like this in a while, but I love doing this as well. Neighbors, AJ Brown, JSN, Evans, Ridley. I did so many entries last year where I started with 5 or 6 receivers. I don't know. I went through a really heavy phase of doing that. Basically just 0 running back approaches with like a dart throw room or Frankenstein room of tight ends and like 2 late round quarterbacks. Usually I've been structuring these streams with some sort of strategy as part of the theme. And tonight I was like, I'm going to draft some teams, but I think Chris is inspiring me. That's what I'll do next week. We did some streams where we did heavy wide receivers drafts, but I started with 4. But I like the 5 start. And yeah, last year I would do teams where I would push it to 6 wide receivers to start. All right, Cat's got the stack with Hurts and Devonta. See where he goes. I'm sitting at 4 wide receivers, 2 running backs. Chris Olave off the board. Very torn on Chris Olave. I feel like he could end up being a good value where he's being drafted. I don't mind him as much in best ball formats. Don't think I feel crazy about him in redraft. Also, like the risk is not really too crazy at ADP. But in the last redraft mock we did, he went pretty early. Flowers, Addison, Godwin, Ridley, Olave, Waddle, Adunze were gone in the 6th. I'll take Flowers, Addison, Godwin, Ridley over Olave confidently. Then in the 7th, Pearsall, Judy, Cup, Diggs, Myers, Shakir. I'd rather draft Myers. I'd rather wait. And in full PPR, I'll still take Shakir in that range. But in best ball, I feel like almost anything's open. Like, I don't know if there's a bad, as long as it's being thought out, if you're targeting late round stacks or mid round stacks, like whatever. If Olave's healthy, I would assume the volume's all going there. Although Rashid Shaheed was on I think some people forget that Shaheed was on a really, really good pace last year before he got hurt. So, all right. Yeah, and Khalil Shakir, who I just talked about, like he's one player that I feel really confidently about. Chris Godwin was a steal there, by the way, Chris. I was like crossing my fingers that you already went so receiver heavy that you might go with a different position there. But yeah, that's a steal for you. And now I don't exactly know where I want to go. I'm just gonna go. Oops. That did not want that pick. I'll take a shot on Pearsall. It's good for the exposure. That was an auto selection. But yeah, Khalil Shakir is a player who I feel less confident in best ball because of the half PPR format. But in full PPR, I feel really good about Shakir. And I feel like I already have a relatively high exposure to him. And I hope Pearsall's coming off of that injury list, like you were saying, Cats. I actually want to check my exposure to Shakir. Marvin Mims, my most drafted receiver. So Shakir's at 18.2, tied with McMillan, Rondell Robinson, Jacoby Myers, Cortland Sutton, George Pickens, Rashad Bateman, Ced Tillman, Jamison Williams, Chris Godwin, Lockett, Rice, Jaden Reed. So still relatively high, but there's a lot of players in that list. So not too bad. But I am trying to keep an eye on my overall exposure. I feel like I have less of a plan for this team. And that Ricky Pearsall pick kind of messed it up. I just didn't like the ADP of anybody sitting there. Sometimes I forget like the 22nd per pick thing is happening. And I was trying to check quarterbacks. Like, is there like a stack I can start to look at? And I got caught up in the moment. Once again, I just don't like anybody on the board. This is the worst pick ever. I truthfully still like Tyrone Tracy over every other running back available right there. And I have a need. Chris with a nice stack there, getting Godwin and Evans. And at the turnaround, getting Baker. I almost just went Mahomes there. Like, I'm okay with riding the singular quarterback with no stack if my next QB off the board is a solid stack and like still in position to like get a Stafford or Herbert, even a Nix, McCarthy. Like basically everyone else here I can stack. So, but yeah, I need another running back here. Cats gets Pittman, good value here. Golden's fine too. That Pearsall, I did not like either of these last two picks. I should have just reached for Brian Robinson or gone Aaron Jones at pick 80. That would have been the right selection. But we got. I'm not going to freak out about some Pearsall exposure. How do you feel about Kamara? I really like Kamara. I like the range he goes in. I'm drafting a lot of Alvin Kamara. He's kind of right in that tier of players where like I talked about this in the running back ranking video I did. I've got him in the third tier of running backs, right after like Chase Brown, Kyron Williams, Breece Hall, James Cook, tier break, Kamara, Walker, Mixon, Connor, Chuba, Swift, Monty Jones, Hampton, Pollard is that entire tier for me. But there's a tier break in between that tier with Kamara and Walker. I think they could be in that second tier. But Kamara gets a little bit downgraded because of the like quarterback situation, the offense as a whole. Walker gets a little bit of a downgrade because of the injury proneness. But those are two players that I really, really like that I'm drafting a lot of. And I like their ADPs a lot. So I was very close to just throwing them in the third tier for sake of argument. Then I didn't. But yeah, I mean, I'm still very in on Kamara. I do think that, while the system was very oriented towards his success last year, also the senile quarterback play, so to speak, could really still benefit him. All right, I'll go Charbonnet. I'm actually happy Chris took Dobbins there because I've drafted so much of Dobbins is my two most drafted running backs right now are Rachaad White and J.K. Dobbins. I don't think that surprises anybody. They are tied at 54.5%. But they're also cheap ADPs. And like I always talk about that, players with those cheaper ADPs are going to be more prone to drafting more of them. And they're just going to be a little bit higher up on your exposure at the end of the day. But I just talked about liking Walker a lot. For that reason, I'm still drafting a lot of Zach Charbonnet as well. I got to keep an eye on a couple players here. Let's see. This is kind of like I could do just about anything at this pick. I was hoping Mark Andrews might make it back around here. I'm not going to go with the Bo Nix stack. I just did that last draft. So I think I have one of two picks that I like here. I do feel like Trey Harris is starting to move up a bit in ADP. I also wouldn't mind just going Prescott here unstacked once again. It's tough. I try not to get too caught up in like the active stacking players. There goes Bo Nix anyways. But yeah, I'll take Rashad Bateman. Heavy at receiver. But I don't ever mind being heavy at receiver. Chris goes with Cam Scattaboo on opposite ends of the spectrums in terms of Giants running backs. Cat's on the clock here. Cat's also gets Shaheed. I wonder what late round quarterback he will be targeting. Goes Tucker Kraft. How do you guys feel about Tucker Kraft? I'm like redraft, like sure, if I'm in that range, if I'm going late round tight end, Andrews through and Joku, and I want to get a second guy, like I'm fine with Kraft. But I worry that Kraft was so touchdown dependent last year that I really worry about his production if those touchdowns aren't there. It's 7 receiving touchdowns. Let's see. I'll look at the advanced metrics. Number 5 amongst tight ends and yards after catch. Number 7 in receiving yards. Number 4 in total touchdowns. Was number 14 in fantasy points per game. Number 2 per yards route ran. Number 2 in yards per reception. Total separation was number 4. Dominator rating amongst tight ends was number 7. Yeah, those are all pretty decent here. Number 12 in red zone targets. That's the thing. You look back, he did not have a single. He had one double-digit game against Miami. 7 targets, 6 catches, 78 receiving yards, 13.8 fantasy points. Every other game last year, he had double digits. He scored a touchdown. So that worries me. It really does. All right, I'm going to go with Justin Herbert. Stack him with Lad McConkey. But in best ball, I'm probably not as worried about Kraft. And you'll take the spike weeks when they're there. You don't have to worry about them when they're not there. You know what I mean? Redraft might be a little bit different. Man, oh, never mind. I'm good. I was going to say, I thought I had 3 running backs with a week 8 bye, but I have 2. So I should survive. Jordan Love, snipe. You know it's always potential. He's had Jaden Reed. It almost makes... Oh, you had Golden. Yeah, that does suck. But Chris basically went 0 running backs. Gets Henderson, Dobbins, Scatterbo, Baton. excuse me, Baseball Tootin. Tired over here. Cats starts running back heavy and hasn't drafted one. It's round 3. Be interesting to see how that shakes out. And I'm just kind of over here spitballing it. See how the teams look in the end, boys. All right, this next pick's actually kind of tough for me. But I think I know where I'm leaning. And it shouldn't surprise anybody. If he's there, I'm taking him. But I really like Dallas Goedert here as like an underrated late round tight end 1. Although, honestly, Goddard has regressed in like every metric 4 years in a row. But he missed some time last year. I'm going to go Rachaad White, wrap up my running back room. You know, I can't pass on it. So I didn't help my J.K. Dobbins, Rachaad White exposure tonight at all. But that's okay. I'll deal with that issue on a separate date. But yeah, decent start here. We got Herbert stacked with Ladd, Brees Hall, Kenneth Walker, Tyrone Tracy, Charbonnet. Oh, I didn't even realize I might draft one more running back. I don't. I am tired enough that I didn't realize I drafted both Seattle running backs, which I don't hate by any stretch, but Puka Nacua, Ladd, McConkey, Cortland Sutton, Addison, Pearsall, Bateman. So yeah, we got Seattle's backfield locked up. Actually, it's kind of cool. We're gonna be. I'm actually kind of worried because now I'm thinking about it. Chris has 0 tight ends. I have 0 tight ends. I think we're both going to be fighting in the late rounds here. Catch just got his second. But I have a player who I'm trying to target here that I don't think really anybody else is going to target with this next pick. We'll see what happens. There is always a possibility, as I have learned doing many of these best ball drafts over the years. You never know. I think I'll get this next player, though. All right, Katz gets Eckler and Javonte. I mean, wrong team. You get Goddard and Quentin Johnston. Okay. Never mind. I did love that there was like one clip of Quentin Johnston surfacing in the past week of him dropping a pass. And then and my player here is Stafford, so I have Puka stacked. And then like literally there was a clip surfacing of a like perfectly fine touchdown grab by Quentin Johnston as well. So it's like, what is the Quentin Johnston propaganda trying to tell us right now? Hard to say. But most people were leaning into the drop pass. But like, you could take a number of there will be a numerous amount of wide receivers who will drop one pass in training camp this year. It was like during it wasn't like offense versus defense type drill. It was like there's nobody there. It was just like right through his hands. So, but hey, I've said it throughout the course of the offseason. I don't think it's 110% completely over for Quentin Johnston. And the news of Mike Williams retiring certainly helps. And Quentin Johnston was like this huge, like stay away player last offseason. And then he had production last year. Trey Harris is here now, of course. But Quentin Johnston was a viable waiver option, streaming option last year. There was some unpredictability, but he had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 double-digit games, 8 receiving touchdowns, 711 receiving yards off of 55 catches. Was a top 40 wide receiver. He's not even being drafted in redraft formats. So where there's a will, there's a way, ladies and gentlemen. All right, I have no tight ends on this team. Basically feel fine everywhere else. So Hunter Henry gone too. I mean, just give me a Johnny Smith share, I guess. Arthur Smith, I am putting my faith in you. How many more picks do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4. Man, I might be taking 3 tight ends, 1 receiver, wrap things up. In theory, I wouldn't mind another running back, but there's just not. I don't think there's going to be another running back that I feel like the other positions will benefit this team more. But I don't know. Some people talk about that, like in terms of strategy, just always going with a complete, like scroll down, choose somebody random at running back and receiver. Maybe not random, but somebody undrafted at running back or receiver. Maybe Phil Maffa basically goes undrafted. Just take him with your last pick. You know, you're looking at those players who become relevant in the middle end of the season that nobody talked about. Like those can be really valuable in best ball, but your chances of guessing those players very low. You scroll down at wide receiver. I don't know, maybe I scrolled down too much. Like Torrey Horton for Seattle could be interesting. Devon Bailey. Jordan Whittington. Trey Tucker. Deontay Johnson. You just never know. The NFL season is always a doozy. So Chris did get his first tight end, and Isaiah Likely gets a good value on Tank Bigsby. Katz is still drafting Roshan Johnson for some reason, then gets Alec Pierce, which is fine. I have a deep hatred for Roshan Johnson. I guess I'll just go. I'm gonna go Rico Dowdle. I am gonna take another running back. Give me Rico Dowdle. I like Dowdle. I think he could be more involved than some people are anticipating. And if he's not, I think he's a very solid handcuff. And I still like this receiver room. I feel like for having just, not drafting a wide receiver 5 until 5th round, I feel okay there. I actually feel pretty good about these receivers. Except I didn't love the Ricky Pearsall auto selection. Setting up the Indy stack. Hey, go. I don't hate that, I don't hate it. All right, so 3 more picks here. I got a lot riding on Johnny Smith right now. Maybe I just go Aaron Rodgers. Maybe I just get the stack. I had this very bad feeling that Aaron Rodgers is not going to throw to Johnny Smith at all. I could just get really crazy here. Get Pat Freiermuth, Aaron Rodgers, and Calvin Austin. Wrap up this draft. I don't think it's worth it. But it'd be kind of fun. Yeah, I don't know. I think Kate Otten's and I don't even know if Kate Otten's really gonna have that much production this year. I mean, I think I just like the offense more than anything. I like Jalen McMillan if he was right here. It's got to be a tight end. I'll just take a shot on Mason Taylor. I mean, Justin Fields had pretty good chemistry with Kate Otten. Excuse me, with Kate Otten. With what is it? Cole Kmet. I was like, starts with the C, but it's not Kate Otten. So yeah, I mean, I like Mason Taylor as a prospect. I have to say what we're gonna get out of that offense other than Brees Hall, Garrett Wilson, and probably I think some good production out of Fields on the ground. Take a shot on Mason Taylor. I was literally, and I was not even joking. It was kind of tempting to go Aaron Rodgers, then try and get Fryermuth and Calvin Austin to wrap up the draft just for fun. But yeah, I think I'll end up with 2 quarterbacks, 6 running backs, 7 receivers, 3 tight ends. Is how this is going to look. Justin Herbert and Matthew Stafford are going to have to get me through here. All right, boys and girls. Into the 17th round we go. So, Cats, you going the Danny Dimes stack or the Richardson stack or both? Chris has Baker and Sam Darnold at quarterback. Nice. Got the JSN stack there. A lot line on Isaiah Likely here. I don't know who you like at this point at tight end in the draft. I will tell you I'm going to draft one more tight end, but I don't love the options here. One more wide receiver, one more tight end. I mean, I guess I could try and survive on Johnny Smith and Mason Taylor, but I always get worried in that type of situation. It's like with Ben Sennett. Dalton Schultz, a good pick here. I'm going to go Calvin Austin as my final receiver. I still think he's kind of a good late round wide receiver 2 on a respective team. All Aaron Rodgers stacking jokes aside. But yeah, I remember drafting like Ben Sennett a lot as like a tight end 3 or worst case situation tight end 2. And like when there's just zero production, it's like, oh, there was a wasted pick all off season. But there's nobody on this Jets roster behind Mason Taylor. Got Stone Smart. There's no Zach Ertz here. Jeremy Ruckert. They're all blocking tight ends. Neil Johnson and Zach Kuntz out of ODU. Shout out Virginia. Danny Dimes because I need starts to the weekly upside. Yeah, I like Danny Dimes in this range. Why not? I might literally go Pat Fryermuth. Or I might go Noah Gray. I have talked a lot about Noah Gray in this range. I kind of like Theo Johnson. Isn't Jawan Johnson hurt? They re-signed him for 3 years. Aren't all the Saints tight ends hurt? I'm going to go Noah Gray. I still like Noah Gray in this range. Like you look at it, had 100 less receiving yards than Jawan Johnson, 10 less receptions, 2 more touchdowns. Not that crazy. Fryermuth is the most productive tight end available, but then how do we view him now? Theo Johnson. I don't know how many games. I don't remember how many games he played in. Yeah, like if you're against Travis Kelce, I think Noah Gray is a good target. Thoughts on Junkins? I mean, I just want to let the situation play out. It does not look good. We didn't talk about Dylan Sampson tonight, but Dylan Sampson is a player, especially like in best ball formats that I don't know where he went. Like I plan to take more shots. There he is at 142 on Dylan Sampson with the Quinton Junkins situation unfolding. But yeah, I feel like he did move up in ADP. But yeah, I like for redraft, it's probably not going to impact things too drastically. I think we'll have an answer by the time most of us are drafting for our upcoming like leagues. But for now, it's just a stay away situation. I would rather take a late round shot on Dylan Sampson because, as you know, we've discussed on the channel earlier in the offseason, like I like Sampson as well. That's part of the reason I was maybe slightly lower in consensus on Junkins before this situation. And I still think Jerome Ford could be a factor, but also like the offense, like what is this offense even going to be this year? But yeah, it doesn't look positive. This is the puppy 2 Scott. Yeah, Junkins probably a no. Have a good night, Andrea. All right, let's take a look quickly here. Cats ended up with Hurts, Danny Dimes, Tyler Shuck. Hurts with Devonta Smith, Danny Dimes with Michael Pittman and Pierce. Hurts also with Goddard. Danny Dimes has JT as well. A lot of correlation here. I like it. Shuck was with Olave and Shaheed. A lot of stacking, a lot of correlation. Look at you. Gibbs, JT, Jacobs. That was a great start at running back. Roschon Johnson, ETN. Trevor ETN, I guess I should specify. Devonta Smith, Olave, Golden, Pittman, Shaheed, Burden, QJ, Pierce, Kraft, Goddard. Hey, there's a thought process here. That's all that matters. You did get sniped on Jordan Love, though, which happens. All right, Chris with Baker, Moneymaker, stacked with Evans and Godwin. Godwin at pick 79 was a smash for you, dude. I was still like crossing my fingers. Maybe you would go running back since you started so heavy at receiver. Neighbors, Brown, JSN, Evans, Ridley. But yeah, and then you got the turnaround with Baker. Very, very nice. So Chris basically went 0 running back here. Ends up with Travion Henderson, J.K. Dobbins, Cam Scatterbo, Bashaw Tootin, Trey Benson, Tank Bigsby. But you think about this lineup, like Baker or Darnold. Baker generally is going to be the starting quarterback, barring injury. Neighbors, A.J. Brown, JSN, Evans in the flex. But then, like, if it's not Evans, it's going to be Ridley or Godwin. So you just need 2 of these running backs to keep you afloat. And if you get a breakout out of Henderson, Scatterbo, Tootin, injury to Connor, maybe Bigsby's a guy in Jacksonville. I think Dobbins, I am in on Dobbins at his ADP for sure in terms of the production he can produce. So, this can definitely work, but the receivers were knocked out of the ballpark here. But then you definitely Frankenstein the tight end room together. Likely Schultz, Johnson, but that's expected with how you ran things. So I don't think you really care. But yeah, 2 stacks here. Baker, Darnold with their guys. Solid. And if Andrews really is on the downturn, then likely could definitely be a huge pick there. Jerome Ford's going to be Cleveland's man. Yeah, I mean, it's tough to say. Which I don't like tough to say at this point in the offseason. All right, here's final look at my final team for the night. I don't think I'm going to make it to a 3rd draft. Herbert stacked with Ladd. Stafford stacked with Puka. And this is something I always talk about when you guys are in these early rounds. Like, you're going to have the exceptions. Like, if you draft Jamar Chase and you're going to stack, you're going to have to get Burrow pretty early. You draft A.J. Brown early, you're going to have to get Hurts early. Right? If you're going to, draft and target Terry McLaurin, then it might be hard to get Jaden Daniels. But generally speaking, if you can get your early round wide receivers to correlate and stack with very attainable later round quarterbacks, it can be an advantage for you. Don't always have to do it that way, but I think it is something to consider. So I knew with both of those selections, like if I go Nico even, you can wait quite a bit to draft CJ Stroud. You go B-Tom, you can wait quite a bit to draft T-Law, Michael Penix, Drake London. Amon-Ra, Goff's kind of in that like middle-ish range, but it's not bad. Most of these wide receivers at the top, Lamb, JJ, their quarterbacks are going late. So keep that in mind. But yeah, it worked out here. Herbert with Ladd, Stafford with Puka, Brees Hall, Kenneth Walker, Tyrone Tracy, Charbonnet, Rashad White, Rico Dowdle at running back. I actually like this running back room. Call me crazy. Puka, Ladd, Cortland Sutton, Addison, Pearsall, Bateman, Calvin Austin. I don't hate this wide receiver room. Also, another example of a true Frankenstein tight end room. Johnny Smith, Mason Taylor, Noah Gray. But yeah, I do think this team could be just fine. All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, there you guys have it. 2 drafts down. We're another week closer to the 2025 NFL season and the 2025 fantasy football season. So I should have a video coming out tomorrow night for you guys. We've got 2 weeks essentially left of July until we hop into August. So things will start or continue to ramp up here on the channel and start to ramp up for the entirety of the fantasy community. So make sure you guys are staying posted. Should have about 3 to 4 videos out for you guys. Some shorts out this week, and we will do a subscriber mock draft Tuesday night on Sleeper. Make sure you guys are in on Discord so you guys can join the subscriber mock drafts. And our fantasy leagues are starting to fill. So make sure you guys message me on Discord if you guys want to get in on one of the fantasy leagues. There will all be a $20 buy-in. So keep your eyes peeled. Plenty of content coming. Get you guys ready for the upcoming 2025 fantasy football season. Thank you guys for hanging out tonight for talking fantasy. And thank you to those of you who drafted with me. That'll do it. Everyone have a great rest of your weekend, and I will talk to you guys soon. With that, I'll say thank you guys so much for watching and or listening. And remember, you saw it here on The Catch. And